So I reckon the next stage on this, we'll have a recap. So we've got all the water system off. It's all dried out nicely. This is a Zenith carburettor. This has got to go. We've got to put an SU carb on this. And if you change the carburettor, you have to also take the manifold off that's here. That's got to go, because that manifold won't fit an SU carb. We've also got to disconnect the fuel line and put a fake fuel tank in, like a lawnmower fuel tank, just to run the new engine on, or the new carburettor on. This linkage has got to be disconnected and adjusted for the SU carb as well. So the next job is to take off this manifold and this carburettor and disconnect the fuel line. So I'll undo all the bolts and then we'll show you the progress in about a second or two. Thanks. When you talk about carburettors, fuel pumps have got diaphragms in them, and if they sit for 44 years, they can crack and they can not work. Now we're going to put an auxiliary fuel tank in here. So what I've done is I've just loosened this top one. This is the fuel inlet to the carburettor. So you undo that. And on the side of the fuel pump that's down here, there's a lever. If you move it up and down, like this. Now if you look up top, that's stale, shitty fuel. But what does that tell us? That tells us that the fuel pump's working. So when we disconnect the inlet to this pump and put a nice fresh tank on it with a new pipe, fresh fuel, it should pump to the new SU carburettor. So we know that fuel pump's okay at the moment. Sometimes what happens is they work, and then once they've started running, they start leaking like a sieve, and you have to take them apart and rebuild them with a rebuild kit. So I've ordered a new carburettor off of a lady called Claire, who supplies SU carburettors for a good price. So if you want me to pass on her details, just drop me a comment. So we're going to take this off now, ready for the SU carb. We're going to keep the fuel pump attached to the engine because we know it's pumping, but we're going to disconnect the inlet and also leave the outlet ready for the new carburettor. So we'll take that off now. So we've disconnected the fuel line from the fuel pump into the carburettor, the Zenith carburettor. Disconnected all the bolts holding the manifold on. There's about 1, 2, 3, there's about 5 of them. And now we've also disconnected the vacuum tube, which is here. See this piece here? Goes down to the distributor in the top. Whatever you do, you see that nut there, don't turn that nut. Otherwise it will cost you £79 for another vacuum, because you break the top off of it, as I did on the first car. I turned that big nut. It's this tiny little nut, this one here. That's the one you want to turn to get it off the vacuum. Don't turn the big one. All right, remember that, otherwise it costs you 79 quid for a new one. That should come out of there now. There we go. That's the Zenith carburettor, which, to be honest, we're gonna not bin. It's gonna stay with the car in case the new owner wants the original, but we're going to put an SU carb. We're going to put an SU carb on this so that the SU carb runs the car better. Probably get that from, well, we will be getting it from Claire. And like I say, I can put her details. I'll ask her first. I'll put her details in the description of this video. So if you want an SU carb for your car, you can give her a mail.